Mike, Paul, we got a new show.
What's up, buddy?
We do. It's exciting.
What's up, guys? I think Mike told me we're going to have 10 shows before the end of the year, something like that, under the MakingChips umbrella.
Mike has his way.
Yep, that's what it's looking like.
Well, I'm excited about this one because it's just about the main challenge I attack in my career, growth.
Mm-hmm. You do struggle with growth.
Have since you were born.
I just teed myself up for a short joke. Oh, boy. Mike, Kirk, welcome. Welcome to MakingChips.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, man. It's good to be here.
I like your office, Mike.
Yeah.
You've been cleaning for us? You've been preparing for this?
Yeah, I did. What I did was I made sure I piled every paper that's ever been sent to me on the desk to swear and both coach our listeners.
Hey, it's when I see your desk, it says important strategic thoughts.
Yeah. There's tax documents from 2007 on my desk.
There you go. That's great. So, Paul, why don't you introduce officially Kirk and Mike, since they've both been veterans of machine shop mastery?
Yeah, and Mike twice. So, Mike and I met, I think, just through LinkedIn last year, and had Mike on the show. Was so excited. We just went straight did another episode, about his model of buying these companies, incorporating them into the business. And then Kirk and I geeked out on how to get the most out of teams, how to inspire them, how to get people that probably didn't have enough nurturing possibly in their last positions, and helping them get the maximum out of their potential in the company. And it's just their focus on growth, of machine shops, and buying six shops in the last couple of years. Absolutely incredible. So it's a topic that I think every shop needs to focus more on than they probably do. And really exciting to have them here on the MakingChips.
Yeah, welcome, guys, and excited to kind of announce your new show. Mike Payne, I think, is the one who kind of put this whole thing together with Mike Fritz. Mike, maybe talk a little bit about that, like your conversations up to this point.
Yeah,
and we'll pass it to these guys.
I'd heard Mike on Paul's show and reached out. We have similar philosophies on growth, and especially on the merger acquisition side. So, and he's actually, I think you were my first or second episode of By the Numbers. We've had a lot of talk since, and Mike's, the machine shop growth show that they've launched is, as Paul said, it's an important topic that we haven't been directly drilling in on MakingChips and our group. I mean, obviously there's a lot of topics about growth, but that sales side is so critically important. So, Mike and I just started visiting about, let's talk about wrapping these up together so that we're, continuing to provide as much value as we can to shop owners and leaders as they run their companies. So, I think Mike was super easy to work with and making that happen. And here we are.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. That's what I focus on as a VP of sales and marketing. Growth is my job. So I'll be excited to hear what you guys are going to cover. And is it going to be more about growth of a machine shop, like a contract manufacturer, or just kind of industrial sales and marketing topics? Or what are you thinking, Mike?
That's a great question, Nick. So part of growth, and this is one of the things that hurt business owners, and I don't care if you're a florist or a machinist, everybody thinks their business is different. And I don't care if I took over a floral shop today, I would be applying the same strategies that we apply in our machine shop. I mean, Kirk and I talk about all the time, you don't need new customers to grow, right? Here's just a small example. You go to the people that are already paying you, and you serve them better, and you ask them if you can serve them more. Do you have any more stuff we could quote? If I had a floral shop, I'd be doing the same thing. Who's buying my flowers? I go ask them, can we do more work for you? The thing with growth is, in entrepreneurship, is we segment it that if I own an HVAC company or a machine shop or a floral shop, it's different. The psychology of the buyer still has a value transaction in their head. I'm giving money and I'm extracting value out of that transaction. And how you communicate that is 90% of the battle. So when we talk about machine shop growth, we're targeting machine shops and shops like that. It could be fab shops, it could be all kinds of stuff like that. But the truth of the matter is, these principles, man, I don't care what you're running, they're so transferable. We talked about, we just shot an episode last week, or actually this week, that went live this week. We talked about a USP. Most people don't deal in those terms, a unique selling proposition. So I would say we've bought 6 shops now. Not one single shop could clearly articulate their selling proposition when we want.
I believe that.
And so those are the kinds of things we really want to help shop owners see. Like, hey, you're really great once you get the PO. What if the entire business success is built before you get the PO, or at least a major portion that we're completely neglecting? Paul, when I was on your podcast, you said something that I thought was so interesting. We talk about the skills gap in this industry, and mainly the skills gap is in the operational side, like teams or programmers or engineers or whatever. Rarely are we talking about the skills gap in sales and marketing, and every shop has that, right? I never walked into a shop where there wasn't somebody that knew how to run a lathe and a mill.
Yeah, every shop's got a selling proposition. Not very many of them are unique. You know, we try to deliver quality. We try to be on time. You know, we can make good parts. It's like, yeah, that's what everybody says.
Exactly.
Why should I choose you over the other 50 shops in the radius?
Yep. I said this when Kirk and I shot our episode this week. My first trade show I ever went to, there were 5 machine shops there, and I could sum all 5 of the machine shop marketing up in one statement: we make stuff. That's their
hell yeah.
We make stuff, and none of it is unique. And so all that to say, our real passion is to help shop owners that are out there, giving them some more tools. Maybe it's not them selling, or maybe it is.
Yeah.
Give them some tools, man. I don't want to see we're going into a phase where we're going to see more and more and more and more shops. I literally talked to Mike Payne this week about a shop that went to auction. We could not get it fast. We couldn't get to it soon enough because he needed out of the day. I couldn't say it fast enough. That's going to continue to happen if we don't have somebody come in and,
well, it's happening every day. I mean, I was at a shop yesterday that fits that same scenario, that I'm working on an acquisition, or they will go to auction probably in April or May.
Yeah, geez.
Yeah. But that whole point is why Kirk and I said, hey, let's start something around this growth model.
So Kirk, is your background like machine shop for a long time, or you kind of, how did you get into this world of the metalworking nation?
Yeah. So, I mean, I started doing this. I'm the 3rd generation. My grandpa was a tool and die maker. My dad was a tool and die maker.
Yeah, let's go.
I mean, I've been in the machine shop since I could probably walk. And, I started working for my dad when he owned a shop back before 2008, and, running the bandsaw, started on all manual machines.
Everyone starts on the saw.
Yeah, that's right.
Saw on the broom.
Nobody else wants to do. And so, kind of worked my way through all that, and, went into programming. I started running shops about 10 years ago, and, Mike reached out a year ago and said, hey, I've got this interesting opportunity. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. And
cool.
So, I think, the idea of the machine shop growth is two-sided. It's one, yeah, we definitely, like Mike said, we want to focus on that sales and marketing aspect. It's missing so much, but everybody that's worked in machine shops knows leadership is the other side that is really lacking. You can sell $10 million, but if you don't have the structure and the management and, empower the people to get that $10 million done, what difference does it make?
You'll go to auction.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's just a different style, just a bigger auction. Exactly.
So that's a lot of my focus in this is it's speaking to those middle to senior management and like, hey, how do you engage your people? How do you train them? How do you fill that skills gap? But also, I really like to talk to people younger in their career. Like, I literally have been there. I started exactly where you are. There is a path. And, because I remember, in fact, when I worked for my dad, I quit. I went in the Air Force for 6 years. I said, I don't want to get cut and burnt and smell like oil every day. So I said, well, I'll just go get shot at because that sounds
sounds easier.
Yeah. And so it was great.
T-shirt for you. I got shot at, so I didn't have to work in a machine shop.
That's quite the USP.
Thank a machinist for that one, Paul.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it was great though. I learned a lot about leadership. Spent a couple of years as a criminal investigator, and one thing that I've really realized is through all of your life experiences, you can draw a lot of parallels to what you do in work. And interview and interrogation as an investigator is no different than the sales process with the customer. You're trying to figure out what they want, and what you have to offer. You have to offer something to get what they want, right?
Mm.
Same thing with an interrogation. And so, and it's a lot the same with dealing with employees and personnel. So
I'm actually reading a book right now called Never Split the Difference. And the
it's a
guy,
great book.
yeah, and the guy was like a negotiator for like fugitive or what's not fugitives,
hostage negotiator?
hostages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he would sit there and he'd just like use all those tactics in sales and business, and it's super interesting book.
Yeah.
Well, and to Kirk's point too, Nick, really when you think about the shop with the growth concept, there's three real legs to the stool of growth: top line revenue, bottom line revenue, and people.
Mhm.
Right? You got to grow the numbers coming in. You got to grow the numbers going out, meaning how much money you're holding on to. And then you got to grow the people. So
Mhm.
if you can grow those three things, it's the track to success, right? And
Yeah.
so you got to get more money coming in. You got to keep more of that money in your bank account.
Yeah.
You
Do it
gotta
at a
grow your-
profit.
Yep, profit. And you got to grow your people. And that's where
Yeah.
Kirk is brilliant at, is he's got a real passion and a huge knack for taking the operator that's making $25 an hour and saying, here's your track to being a programmer and possibly even leading one of our shops one day. Like there's a track for that. You got to
Sure.
learn, you got to step up. There's a lot of culture and training, but there's a track to get there. And that's
a huge part of our focus this year. We have a theme at our business every year, and the theme for this year is level up. And it's all about like career path planning and making sure everyone kind of knows how to win the week, win the month, get to where they want to get in their career. We didn't always ask every employee like, hey, what do you want to be doing here in 5 years? And then if you don't ask them that, they might be doing what they wanted to be doing somewhere else.
exactly. Yeah,
So,
great point.
That's one of the reasons I'm so excited about you guys joining in the family here is, Mike Fritz has more energy than all of us combined. And Kirk has this deep experience, that is generational. And I just came out on the show, about how to get the most out of your folks. And Nick, you get a D- for not knowing that because you didn't listen to the episode prior to this. So not an F because you're cute. So I'll give you that. But I mean, I've, on my show, we've certainly talked about sales and marketing with different, business leaders that are particularly good at that, and the importance of niching down and having unique selling positions. But having a show dedicated just to that only, and I've listened to all three of the first shows, selling to your existing customers, selling to dormant customers, and last selling to new customers. It's so relevant and it's such good content. Really appreciate you guys making it.
Yeah, I thought I actually listened while I was driving yesterday to your one on dormant customers.
Mm-hmm.
And it just couldn't have been more spot on. And, like when I bought Hill, there were dormant customers, and then customers go dormant too, right? And
Sure.
if you're not monitoring those numbers and paying attention, that can happen. You didn't even know it. And that's happened to us for sure. But I think so much of what you shared is so actionable about just, that's the low hanging fruit growth, right? They already know you. Now there's usually a reason they went dormant.
Yeah.
So maybe, you've got to solve that. Matter of fact, I can give you a related story. Last week, I got contacted they've been a decent customer for a long time, and we still do some stuff for them, not a ton, and one of them reached out to me last week and was like, hey, you guys made this like 6 years ago. We wanted to see if you'd make it again. And talking to him, it's like, yeah, we'd love to. And he said, so talking about dormancy, I didn't even realize
that's for sure a made up word.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, you sold it well.
I said it twice, so it had to be.
The second time I was starting to think maybe that's
that
not
was powerful, Mike. I give you that one, bro.
But I didn't realize they had gone dormant. To them, they had gone dormant. And in the conversation while we were talking, he said, yeah, there was that thing. I don't even remember what it was, something with a material cert, that happened 3 or 4 years ago and blah, blah, blah. But, I'm ready to get past that. Well, without communication, I didn't even realize they thought they had gone dormant. We were still getting some work from them. So, and a lot of what you talked about in there is just go talk to your customers.
Yeah.
Right. And had I talked to that customer 3 years ago, I would have known I may be leaving, however many tens, if not hundreds of $1,000s on the table because there was an issue we didn't know about.
Yeah. Yeah. Part of the growth concept is we really want machine shops to stop seeing themselves as contractors and start seeing themselves as partners to their customers. Like one of the things, the whole brand that we birthed that own our shops, American Precision Partners, is because you've won when your customer's developing a new part and they call you in for consulting.
Yeah,
that's when you know you've won, because you're a leg, you're an arm, you're part of their body of knowledge. Figure out how to make a part effectively, efficiently, financially, cost effective, all that stuff. And so we really, without that communication, you have no partnership. You're an email address in their book.
Transactional. I say that all the time. This is a transactional industry. We just sit back, wait for orders to come in, and we make parts instead of being a little bit more proactive and going out and getting feedback. There's so many times that you'll submit a quote, or owners will submit a quote and it just dies. Mike and I talked about this when I very first started working at Mars Manufacturing with Mike. Was the secret is in the follow up, because so many times those quotes just sit on a desk and they get doing something else and they forget about it. So you come back to them, hey, what happened? Or maybe my price is a little too high, maybe my lead time was a little too long, and you find those competitive advantages with these customers by soliciting their feedback. And if you don't do that, you're never going to know.
Yeah, I think it's important to differentiate like how you speak to your customer, because you can speak to your customer all the time, but it's always about the next project or when this is going to ship or whatever. One thing that has been a game changer for us is we started, like, every key account, we have to have a quarterly customer success review meeting where it's just like, hey, not about a project. It's about the relationship, the partnership, and how are we making you successful? And my favorite question that we ask is like, hey, if you're not giving us a 10 out of 10, what could we do to get a 10 out of 10?
100%.
So it's kind of like your net promoter score, but it's like, well, what would it take to get us to that 10? And the answers we get there, even on like an 8, that close the gap from a 10, is super valuable too. So
100%. Yeah, those meetings, we like to do 4 things. How do we do this last quarter? What can we do better? Do you have anything else to quote? What's going on in your life?
So you do those quarterly meetings too then?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Probably, I would say our key customers are probably monthly.
Yeah.
They probably don't go quite a quarter, or maybe they go every other month. But we really want to. The other thing, Kirk and I were in a meeting a couple months ago, and the buyer was pulling out their phone, showing us the deer, their niche shot. I'm like, that's where we want to get.
Yeah.
We want their life tied in with us, so they feel an emotional connection to. That's what Kirk is talking about. We want to remove that transactional element.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting to think about. I did many of these things at ProCNC, not really, it was the first business I was ever a part of coming out of college. So I didn't really know how other businesses do things. I just did what I thought made sense, and we'd have meetings pretty frequently, at the holidays. I would bring a big holiday basket and sit with the buyers and the engineers and just talk about life, what's going on with their holidays, all that kind of stuff. And then on the partnership side, I know I've mentioned this a few times on my show, but we realized that it was, so competitive with all of these shops. We needed to get to a higher level of connection with our customers. And so we started with pretty much the website of most shops says DFM, right? We do DFM consulting and we help you, and and I know many of them do, and that's great. But we decided to try to take that to a next level. So we started a newsletter specifically just about DFM, which became popular enough that customers started asking us to come give them workshops, and so we started doing like half-day workshops for like their entire engineering staff. And then for our biggest customers, we actually did, that were close by to us, we did weekly DFM office hours. So we would literally go in their facility, sit in a conference room or an office, and their engineers would like file in with their drawings, with their models, and talk about upcoming projects. And I tell you, we got to quote on every single one of those things.
Yeah, now I get to rant and rave on like probably my biggest passion in sales and marketing, which is what you just described, the content marketing side of it. And that's why we're all here doing a podcast.
Yeah, Paul was doing a paper-based podcast 25 years ago.
And you know what? I think sometimes actual real paper could work.
Sure.
It's about being different. If you put out something that's remarkable, like super beautiful photos of these incredible parts that you made with a write-up on it, and they get like this really good-looking magazine. I just made that up. But like, you're the only one doing that.
Yep.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So everyone's got a podcast now, right? Everyone has an email newsletter. The key is to figure out like what people really want, what's going to either entertain them or educate them, or the value is in the content, not in what you're selling. Like in Paul's case, the content itself was so valuable that people were like, hey, come give us workshops.
Yeah.
And then what's the result of that for the business on the back end is, well, I know, like, and trust Pro CNC. That's who's going to make my parts.
Yep.
But if you just focus on the end game, on like getting that, and you just put content out there that sucks, you won't get that. You know, if all your content's like 10 reasons why Pro CNC has great lathes, you know, or whatever, like, who freaking cares? Who gives a shit? You know?
Yeah, no, it's true. That's a good point, though, Nick. When you go to content marketing, and a lot of people think that the newsletter game is dead. What killed the newsletter game is terrible newsletters.
Yes, exactly.
It's worthless newsletters. But I
Yeah.
guarantee you create a good newsletter, especially in an older industry and an overthinking industry like this industry, it still would sing. It would work well if you actually created content people want to read.
Right.
Well, and I think it depends on which industry within the industry, right? So when you look at manufacturing and machining, okay, you've got, aerospace, automotive, oil and gas, injection molding, tool and die, all these different industries, right? One of our shops in the textile braiding industry. You can put out as much digital content as you want. Nobody's ever going to see it. They want that magazine, that book, whatever, delivered to their door. And they
or fax.
Or fax. When we took over that shop in Cincinnati, one of the first things I did was throw away the fax machine. And the old owner's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I said,
we rely on this machine.
Exactly. Like that.
It was yellow.
That and carrier pigeons need to still be able to land on the front patio.
You can't have a relationship with the fax machine like you can with a pigeon.
No. Pigeons still will talk.
Fax machine lives longer, though.
Yeah. But the point, to Paul's point and Nick's point, I think that the growth concept in content marketing or content sales is because most people that are running shops, call it fab shops, tool and die shops, whatever, machine shop, most of them are manufacturing thinking people. And they're not, let's say, naturally driven to this conversation, right? And I said this on Paul's podcast, rarely do those two thoughts live in the same head.
Yeah.
So that's where you have to have a little bit less ego, which we all know in this space. The ego can run wild, and we got to have enough ego to say, I just don't know how to do this. So I either got to bring somebody in or I got to figure it out.
I think the less you separate sales and marketing, the better it is. You know, you have like a revenue generation team and a lot of people are on it and different people have different specialties, but the less you kind of try to silo, like that's marketing. Like I'm not going to be on LinkedIn. Marketing's supposed to be on LinkedIn.
Yeah, right.
They're the ones who do social media because that falls into marketing bucket. Meanwhile, there's guys who don't call themselves sales or marketing people who are absolutely crushing it because they're just out there connecting and building an audience and building trust. And now they're selling like crazy and they didn't waste the time trying to figure out like whose job it is.
Right.
We do a lot of that same thing you're talking about, Nick, where we have two people that work with us. One that really focuses directly on sales, one that really focuses directly on marketing. But, in this world, you have to have a third leg kind of, and either your sales and marketing guy have to be of an engineering mind to a degree, because if I take, for example, our sales guy, he comes from the IT world. If somebody sends him a part, he's reading Egyptian, right? And so we have to have that third leg of that engineering support, and we can go in and talk to those customers. But do I have time to be calling all these customers? Absolutely not. That's what I have the sales guy for. Do I have time to be, making weekly blog posts or things like that? No, that's what we have the marketing guy for. But do I have time to go in and look at parts? Absolutely, I have time to go look at parts. So, our sales and marketing kind of group, if you will, is exactly what you just said. It's just a revenue creation group. And that is all those three things grouped into one. And we kind of, as a team, attack all that.
Everyone likes to have these words, I'm part of demand gen. I'm part of demand capture. Especially like when you get to software land. Paul's probably heard a million different words for sales and marketing. And it's so just ridiculous. Like, it's kind of all the same thing.
It is. And the whole point of that is I sit back from a leadership perspective. I'm like, I don't even know why we're actually trying to bifurcate those words. I'm like, what we're all trying to do is get deals.
Right.
I mean, we look at our sales and marketing is to get us quotes. Kurt's job is just to make sure those quotes make money. once we get the POs. And make sure we're doing it the most efficient way. So all that jargon, it's like,
explain it to me like I'm 80 years old.
Yep.
And if I'm like a 80-year-old business owner and I can understand what you're talking about, good.
Yep. Yeah, when you think about it, it's to the door, through the floor, right? You got to get leads to the door. Then you've got to have somebody that can sell them and get them through the door, which is the quoting and sales process. And then you've got to have somebody that can get it through the floor profitably. That's the growth cycle. You're
good at this, like kind of these like instant cliches that I'm going to start using now. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, we just know that the more we simplify the hard process, the more we can actually create real KPIs on real things that we can actually grow. Because sometimes you get into, especially if you're in the business, you're sitting at your desk and your office probably looks like mine, and you're sitting down at your desk and you're like, I know we've got the part for John to make, and you're not even thinking about getting stuff. And so we're just trying to say, there's a whole nother world out there that we got to get stuff so that you're not just sitting there's a cashier that's just ringing out whoever comes to them. And then there's the shoe salesman walking up and down the aisle, making sure you're picking shoes and buying shoes, right? And you can't just be a cashier in this industry.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what I love the way you're framing this up is because we talk about this all the time, but you're just talking about a growth culture of the company, right? Like everybody's got to be part of that. Even your shipping guy has to be part of that growth culture.
Exactly.
Right? We're talking about starting at the saw. That saw person does too, as does the leadership and everybody else. It's a whole culture around growth, not just a function.
Well, and we've talked about this before. When I very first started working with Mike, I said, Mike, people are motivated by two things: money, because that's the exchange that people are willing to accept for time away from their family. And if it's not money, they want more time with their family. So that would be PTO, right? Vacation. And so, one of the things that we do that works really well is from the saw guy to our bookkeepers to, the managers, whoever, we have a bonus structure for everybody. So when we succeed, everybody succeeds, right? Not just the company. And that's all people come to work for. I mean, there's all these things that people try to create, these creative events and pizza parties, everybody likes to call it, right? People come to work to make money. If we didn't need money, nobody would come to work, right? If we were all inherently rich, why would anybody work?
I do come for the pizza.
Yeah, I'm not mad about pizza.
I got to say, I hate how pizza parties have taken such a beating over the last. Who doesn't enjoy a good pizza?
See, what you guys don't know is on the other family business on my in-law side is an Italian restaurant. I had some great pizza last night, and I'm personally offended by you.
Pizza parties. He started an open bar at lunch party.
There you go.
That was his idea.
Everybody loves that except for the quality guy.
Yeah.
Maybe the safety guys.
Yes, the quality and safety, they have to work overtime. So let me ask about your shirt, Mike. Titanium Capital, and then you mentioned another kind of group, American Precision. Okay, so because I think this will tie into where you and Mike have so much alignment in terms of your M&A strategy and your strategy for growth that way. So maybe we could touch on that kind of growth.
Yeah. So I really realize that you talk about growth. There's a strategy we haven't talked a lot about. I was able to talk about it on Paul's podcast, which was such an awesome thing to be able to do. But one thing you can do to get revenue is buy it. You can actually buy revenue by buying another stream of revenue or another shop, et cetera. And so Titanium Capital is just a holding place where I allow investors to invest in the manufacturing space. We have a major goal. We want to continue to streamline all these shops, but we want to save these dying shops. So Titanium Capital bought its first shop in 2022, second 2023, and here we are. But the whole point of Titanium Capital is to partner people that want to outperform the S&P, people that want to say, you know what, instead of get 6 to 8% on my money, I'm going to get 6 to 8% on my money and a spiff on the profit, and some upside if we ever exit. So Titanium Capital exists to partner people, passive investors, with the manufacturing space. Because I also know if I have access to capital and I can get more capital in the manufacturing space versus the S&P, we're going to all benefit from that in the manufacturing space.
Yeah, definitely.
More dollars coming. It makes the whole industry more valuable, right?
Yep.
So when I bought my first shop, I reached out to Kirk, and this is the power of LinkedIn. Every single one of you I know because of LinkedIn, by the way. Just a LinkedIn plug.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
single one of you I know, because I reached out to Kirk on LinkedIn. I literally Googled programmers in Kentucky. He happens to live in northern Kentucky. And when I bought my very first shop and offered him the job, he's like, it's a little too far away from my house, whatever. And then when Mars came along, I hit him up again. I didn't find him on Indeed. I didn't find him on a recruiting. I just went to LinkedIn and started researching people that knew stuff. So when Kirk came along, he really is the guy that when we get a part, there is nothing I can do with that part. Nothing. Like, I don't know how to program the machine. I don't know how to set it up. I don't know what tooling we need. I don't know anything. And so this is the valuable. Kirk comes in and he has everything. So we talk about that sales and marketing. We know how to get things to the door. He knows how to get it through the door and then through the floor. And so by us partnering, he runs the operations to make sure parts are running effectively. We're making money. It's blah, blah, blah. Hiring and firing, training people. He deals with that on a regional scale. Our shops are in Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana. And so he deals with that on a regional scale. And then he started at one location and in about 90 days was running 2 locations and now is running all the locations. And so the point of his knowledge is not just machining, it's management, which that's another hard thing to find in both sides of the head, right? And so that was the value of us working together. Is I primarily focus on money and growth through acquisitions. That's my role. I know if I have to call and as we've launched, I've been on many calls with bookkeepers and shop floor people, and I've done a lot of that. We're trying, the harder we grow, or the more we grow, the less we want me to do that. And if I can stay in acquisitions, we can continue to take up market share and continue to save these shops. Because Kirk's running the day-to-day. He doesn't have time to go find deals.
Yeah, there's kind of like endless opportunity too.
Exactly.
Right now, so.
And so my job is to find us new opportunity. His job is to take over that once we close. My job is to close. His job is from close on a project. And so that's where Titanium Capital really started to interject into the manufacturing space. And then Kirk is really the head over all operations.
And then all of the businesses that you acquire, is that American Precision Partners then?
Yep. Everything in the manufacturing space, which I have not purchased a company outside the manufacturing space. I was a real estate guy leading into this. And so everything I purchase is in the manufacturing space. And I don't think I'll purchase outside of it. There's no reason to. There's just too much opportunity here. But our next move may be some vertical integration. We may be looking at like buying vendors, buying a steel company, buying things that service all of our shops, right?
And that's where you remind me of the other Mike. He and I have talked a lot about this, like what type of businesses to go after. And
sure,
a lot of PE companies have everything,
Yeah.
And I think the synergies were what gets me excited.
Yeah. Well, and you just look at the experience on this call right here. From raising money to private equity to running shops to liquidating shops like Paul has sold his shop to still running operations. And there's so many different mindsets around this. The value of a group like this is everybody's got a different angle that makes this shop turn.
Mike, what would you say is kind of like your position on your acquisition strategy, keeping it focused in manufacturing, metalworking, things like that?
Well, I think a lot like Mike said, there's just ample opportunity. Which there is in a lot of industries, but I think, part of it for me is a little bit of a passion project. I think I think Mike would say the same. And I think everybody on this call agrees. Manufacturing is the greatest industry we've got in this country. We can do the most with it. It changes people's lives, I think more so than a lot of other things. Opportunity is endless. There's just a lot of synergy, a lot of opportunity you can create for your people. Mike and I have a very, very similar philosophy on how we're doing this. It's
like how you looked at, okay, if I'm buying X amount in laser cut, bent powder coated sheet metal.
Yeah.
And then at some point you start thinking.
Yeah. So my take on, we're talking about supply chain. We're kind of in that same phase where, I currently have operational control of, a little over 100 CNC machines. Probably, I don't know the best way to judge on the welding and fabrication side, but, probably, 100,000 square foot of fabrication space, right? So think about the people and equipment that goes with that. So naturally with that, you spend a lot of money on tooling or maybe like laser cut and bend or coatings or heat treating or all the things that you currently have very, very little control over, right? You may have great relationships, but you may not have as good a relationship as the other person they're serving, but you might be spending a couple $1,000,000 on that, which could potentially be, collectively across your portfolio, which now all of a sudden, if you pull that together, you are a major customer to a local whatever shop, right? Let's use the laser cut and bend, type. So can I pull that together into one spend? Maybe ideally I even find a vendor that I'm not already all that spend, and I'm able to double the size of that company, which now has grown their efficiencies and so forth, that they can take that and grow beyond and beyond and beyond. And I get to capture back part of that margin.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the bigger thing for me on a lot of that, I mean, yes, I want to capture margin on it, but the bigger thing for me is it gives me better control over my price, quality, and lead time.
Exactly.
Right. So it's right now, those things are out of my control. If we have a project going on right now that has just been a disaster, that has 6 outside processes, the machining's gone fine. The first heat treat, the second heat treat, the grind, the blasting, and I don't remember what the other process is, the other 2 processes. Oh, there's a coating and something else. We've had failure points, right? So I have no control over that lead time. I have no control over that price. And then I have no control over the quality. The more of that I own, the more of that I can control.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Less risk. Yeah.
And once you start to have like a big network of synergistic companies, then you've got this like built-in customer base as well. Like they're all going to use each other as first choice too. So now you're protecting the revenue streams you had before because you have more control over it. You're acquiring new revenue streams because you've just acquired a company that had revenue streams that you didn't have before. And then you've got this like internal revenue streams for each other as well that are all kind of huge advantage. Oh, we're all owned by the same group. Like you've got at least a foot in the door.
Yeah. Some of, in our portfolio, I mean, some of, what have become some really good customers are just other companies of each other. I mean, that are owned by the same or similar ownership group. And we automatically do more for that sister company. Like we charge a little bit less and get a little bit, aggressive on lead times for them because it's helping like our sister company. Right.
Exactly. So AME, most people know we make tombstones and products. We're not a job shop, but there's some percentage of our business is contract machining. I'll give you one guess who our number one customer is.
I will bet it's your other company.
Yeah, it's Hennig. Exactly. Yeah. So it's just, to your point.
Yeah, and you guys are a great example of, I mean, you've homegrown a lot of that, controlling your own price, quality, and lead time by having all that in-house.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys certainly, I mean, it's one of the best examples I've seen of somebody that's, grown, have that growth culture that we've been talking about internally, where everything's lifted up with that growth.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up heat treating. We were looking at a heat treater. It didn't end up happening. I wish it did, because in certain like regional areas, there might be only 1 or 2 of that kind of supplier.
Sure.
And you're like fighting for, how do I get in? I want to be next. My customers need it. Then if you own the company, you get to make that choice. So,
well, you think about if you own an island and it's a beautiful island, everybody wants to go there. What's the number one way to make money on that island? Own the bridge.
Yeah.
And so the whole point is, if you own the bridge, meaning
I was going to say like alcohol.
But but you get there, you'll sell all that stuff too. That's all the shops. But what if you own the bridge, right? So you can even get to the island without. So if we're paying $1 million a year in metal across all of our companies, and we buy a metal company, and we put it all to that customer, it wouldn't necessarily even save the shops a ton of money because they would still pay that shop. But what happens is that margin we get to capture at another house.
Yeah, you don't want to cannibalize the company you bought by reducing margin.
No,
you're just now participating in the margin.
Exactly.
You just want that margin to go to your family of enterprise rather than just throwing that margin to another enterprise. So that's the value of the merger and acquisition concept of, I said this on Paul's podcast. If you have a Joe Blow job shop in Iowa and he's about to sell, and a guy across town is about to sell, all they have to do is put their shops together and sell together, and they make more money. Both of them. So merger and acquisitions is a lot of different facets of growing your shop. If people could just understand it's no different than making a part. It's just a different engineering process.
Yeah.
And I think a great way to close this is just what we're doing here. I mean, you started your Machine Shop Growth podcast. We've got amongst the group here, 5 or 6 podcasts, kind of with the Making Chips podcast being the flagship. We could have all just done it separately, but the synergy of everybody working together under this kind of unifying umbrella is just incredible. It's awesome. I mean, we all met on LinkedIn, and then we all became a family through podcasts. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I just love what all you guys are doing collectively. Like, that's one of the things that attracted us here.
Yeah.
Kirk and I had the conversation of, do we just continue to do this on our own or whatever? And I see there's so much. Doc Rivers, one of the coach of the Boston Celtics when they won, and then he went out to LA. He used to say, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of this concept is we can go fast and go, by ourselves. But you tag on to other people's knowledge bases that we don't have. It's amazing how much further we'll be able to continue to impact people.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do they find it? Machine Shop Growth, just search that, or?
Yep. You can find on every podcast outlet there is, Spotify, Apple, any podcast platform that you are engaging with. We're on every one of them that we know of. You just search Machine Shop Growth, and we are all, Kirk and I, both on LinkedIn. Connect with both of us.
And soon you'll be on our website too. You'll have your own show on our website, and we'll get all that done.
Chips as well. Yeah, as soon as that's done, you'll be able to go there and find our shows there as well. And so, and again, you can, like I say, find us on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to engage. We love talking with the real heroes of the industry.
That's awesome. Everybody needs to grow their business. If you can't grow your business, you're not making chips.
If you're not making chips,
you're not making money.
Damn.